and it's 3 minutes, and then we'll jump in and we'll meet our presenter.
What can we do to protect ourselves from robot automation?
The CEO explained that machines will replace traditional labor.
This is all about artificial intelligence and how much faster it can process.
Human labor is never going to be cheaper as we get more advanced, and we're just going to have to adjust to that and deal with the results.
For 3.3 million years, humans have developed technologies to make our lives easier. These inventions made us more efficient. It meant we didn't have to spend as much effort working to survive. When the Industrial Revolution hit, it wiped out the livelihoods of millions of cobblers and weavers who had to adapt or get left behind. And this process continues today. Only now it's happening faster. Much, much faster. Since 1965, computer processing power has roughly doubled every 2 years. All of the computing power that controlled the Apollo mission to the moon can now fit on the chip inside your smartphone. Already, computers use artificial intelligence to easily beat the world's greatest chess masters, recognize faces, understand spoken language, and even compose music. They can do many of the things that we've always thought made us human, and that threatens many of the jobs we've always thought were secure. Take driving a vehicle, which is one of the top jobs in most states in America. With driverless cars already on public roads, millions of truck drivers, bus drivers, and taxi drivers may soon find themselves obsolete. An Oxford University study predicts that within 20 years, 47% of all jobs are at risk of being replaced by technology. That's over 70 million people. Now, just as technology and globalization destroy jobs, it's important to point out that they also create jobs by generating new industries and new markets for American products. We don't know exactly what the future is going to look like, but we do know this. Millions of American workers, white collar and blue collar, young and old, are about to face enormous, difficult transitions. We're living longer than ever before and will be forced to change our jobs more often than any people in history. We're going to need to learn new skills constantly throughout our careers to keep from being left behind. This revolution in the job market is not coming in the distant future. It's happening now, and it's going to accelerate. It's going to affect all of us, our friends, our families, and our communities. Are you ready? Visit us at workingnation.com.
So I hope you enjoyed that video and got a little better perspective of what is to come and what that future is going to look like. It hasn't been written yet, but the prediction is that it's going to be technology based. And that's going to go across all job markets. So if you're looking to be a nurse, a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, technology is going to be infused to that. And so let's meet Douglas tonight, and he currently works in the technology industry, and he's going to share his story and his perspective of this industry, as well as give us some advice on how to plan your future. So Douglas, if you're with us and you're ready, I'm going to turn it over to you. Okay, so if you just click.
Okay, can everybody hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. And I want to make sure I am sharing the right screen. Can you see the presentation or not really?
Not yet. We can see your computer screen.
Okay, give me 1 second. I love this. I'm a technologist and I always have difficulty sharing and doing this stuff. Let me see. There we go. Perfect.
Yes, there we go.
Great. Excellent. First and foremost, I want to thank Andre Ryan and Heidi Williams. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this today. Honestly, it is an honor to do this, to talk to students and parents about what my history has been and all the fun stuff that I've done. So without further ado, my name is Douglas Loyo. I am a software architect and director of development at DoubleLine Partners. So who am I? I'm a passionate software architect. And I put that first after my next title, which is director of development, because honestly, my passion is around software architecture. Yes, I am director of development. Yes, I manage a lot of people. But I still like hands-on coding, hands-on architecture, and all those challenges that software development brings. I'm also an entrepreneur. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. I'm a dad, I'm a husband, and a hobbyist. There's a picture of my kids and myself having some fun. My wife never likes to appear on my pictures, but oh well, that's that. So how did I get where I am today? I was actually born in Bryan, Texas. I went to kindergarten in Bryan, Texas, and first grade elementary. And actually, I moved to Mexico City. I am luckily half American, half Mexican. My mom is American, my dad was Mexican. And I was actually raised in Mexico City for 23 years. I studied in Mexico, my elementary, my middle school, and my high school. I also went to college in Mexico. I went to the Monterrey Tech, which is like a pretty nice university down there for technical stuff like coding, engineering, all that stuff. And I love this. Years of experience equals many, many failures. So I do have probably by now more or less like 15 years of experience and many, many failures. And we'll talk about some of those as we go. Interesting enough, my dad and my brother, both of them are veterinarians. And we actually own a ranch in Mexico City, or in the outsides of Mexico City. So I come from a family of ranchers. As all good Hispanic families, I was expected to help in the ranch and do a lot of stuff in the ranch. And yeah, did I like it? More or less, sometimes. I definitely loved driving the tractor, doing that kind of stuff. But feeding the animals and that, sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't, but I had to do my duties, right? But my dad was always really, really into computers. So we always had a computer at home. I remember even back in the day, a 386, a 486, and then, I mean, what we have today. And even before that, a Commodore 64, which I know we have a lot of young kids on the call today and everything. I'll show you a picture of what that computer looked like for sure. So what was the first code that I wrote? Interesting enough, I was like 8 years old, and my sister and I bought a book of Pac-Man. And I sat on her lap, and we copied all the lines of code one by one into a Commodore 64. That's actually what the Commodore 64 looks like. Actually, the monitor was not as cool as that monitor right there. But yeah, sure enough, we copied all lines of code. So I have an example right here, more or less what the code looked like. And to be honest with all of y'all, at 8 years old, I did not understand what I was typing in. There were some weird structures, weird words, things that I didn't understand. But at the end of the day, I had written Pac-Man and we could play it. And it was really fun, really exciting, honestly. At any point, if anybody has a question, sometimes I talk too much and too fast. So if anybody has a question, please, by all means, stop me, ask me questions, and I'll stop and read those and definitely answer. Okay. So this is super important. Never be afraid of failing. Never. People that fail actually learn more than people who don't even try. I've failed many, many times. And I think because of my failures and because of everything that I've learned with them, I am where I am today. So a lot of people ask me, hey, Doug, talk to me about your job, man. Is it fun? Like, do you enjoy it? Is it a burden to go every day into work? Stuff like that. And I can tell you, coming from a Latin family, there's a lot of sayings in Spanish, right? One of these is follow your passions and you will always be successful. And sure enough, that's what I did. I followed my passion for computer science. I honestly love what I do. I even tell my friends, my wife, everybody, that to me, software development is not a job. It's really like a hobby, right? And as I say here in my presentation, writing software and solving problems is not a job for me. It's a hobby. And people actually pay me really well to do it, which is honestly fun, and I get compensated, so it's great. What are the things that I like from software development? The power of creation. I can grab my computer, I can sit wherever I want, on a beach, outside in a park, at my house, wherever, and I can write a website, I can write a mobile application, I can create stuff. The immediate gratification cycle, right? That's one of the most important things, I guess, for all millennials, and I'm definitely not a millennial, but having that immediate satisfaction of like, man, I created this, I did this, and I had to solve this problem that was really difficult. And look, I wrote the algorithm, I wrote the piece of code that actually solves this. And impacting people's lives, right? And this one is super important for me because I've written a ton of software, a ton of cool products and everything. And I've had products that actually have never been used ever by anybody. So when I say impact people's lives, I like my software to be used. There's no greater satisfaction to me than to log into one of my systems and see, oh my God, there's 2,000 people logged in right now from all over the world using my software. So pretty cool. Continuing on, is my job fun? I get to travel. Depending on the kind of job, like you can get jobs in IT and information technologies as a coder and everything, where you can travel a lot, where you can travel more or less, like medium kind of, and you can get also jobs where you don't have to travel that much. I kind of like to travel medium, honestly. When I was younger, I did travel a lot. I liked it, but I don't know why. People change their minds. And I changed my mind and I was like, man, I really liked traveling, but now I want to kind of like be half and half. I want to be more close to home. What I like, and I'm one of those weird people who, I am a nerd. I love software. I love coding. But I also like people. Honestly, I'm a social person and I really like to meet other people. So being in this job and traveling has allowed me to meet a lot of smart people. Really, really cool people that I keep in touch with, that we share code, that we share experiences, that I call them even for advice once in a while. And I get to work from home sometimes, not always, but I get to work from home. And I really enjoy that because I can see my kids more. I can see my family. Sometimes they don't let me work that much, but but there's time for everything, right? Really and truly, I get to build really fun stuff, and I'll show you guys some examples in a few slides. And I help people do their jobs better, faster, hopefully funner, right? So watching some of the videos that Heidi had just showed us, yes, I do automate a ton of stuff. I look at job processes and I try to make those job processes faster, better, more efficient. It's fun in general, really, really fun. So here's some of the cool stuff that I have built over the years. back when I was in Mexico, I actually started working at QNet, which was a old internet company, and we created websites there. Then I went and I worked for the Ministry of Health in Mexico City. That was super exciting. I wrote a system that people could actually use to report like health issues, right? Like, hey, there's a lot of mosquitoes here in this area, and we already have one person that has dengue fever, and they could report this online, and the Ministry of Health would take care of those things really, really quick. My first failure, legal tracking. This was an amazing software that I built with a business partner. We did software for lawyers in Mexico, right? Lawyers by default have money, so I was like, oh man, if I write some software for these guys and help them deal with some of their issues, I might be set, right? Sure enough, we sold pretty good contracts at the beginning, and we built a really complicated piece of software. And after that, we couldn't sell anymore. So I used to say those were the 3 best years of my life, and then after that, the 3 worst ones, because it's really interesting to grow a company and then to run through all the pains of failing and firing people and letting people go because we couldn't sell anymore. Really interesting. I call it my PhD. I won a lot of money and spent a lot of money, totally. After legal tracking, or actually during legal tracking, I got married. I had my daughter, and I wanted to come to the U.S. again. So I moved over here, and I worked for a company. Actually, the company where I still work at, Double Line Partners. We worked with TEA, so the Texas Education Agency. We worked with the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation. We worked with the EdFi Alliance. And I was one of the proud developers that designed and executed on the student dashboards. And I know that this screen right here, this screenshot is very, very small. But up to date right now, 80% of the code that was written for these student dashboards were written by me. So I'm really proud of doing stuff like that. I've also worked with Texas WIC, Women, Infant, and Children. I wrote a real-time survey system to see how they were doing. Super fun. I loved doing this project with them. I worked with them for 3 years, and it was a fantastic project. And then I created this small company called Collector Car IQ. I don't know why I have too many hobbies. I really honestly do have too many hobbies. And one of my hobbies is cars, right? I remember since I was a kid, like buying my little Matchbox cars, Hot Wheels, those little things, and playing with them. And as we grow, it was still really, really interesting to me to look at cars and to look at the old cars and to look at the cars that I always wanted to drive, right? And so I wrote a software that actually manages classic car auctions. It's really, really fun. And we're expanding. We already have version number 1 of this to do online auctioning of classic cars. So real time and everything, kind of like eBay, but just for classic cars. Fun stuff. Other cool stuff that I built, and this is kind of like one of my hobbies, and these are the kind of things that as a developer you're enabled to do a lot of things. So I write software that computers compile, and then they kind of like obey what I tell them to do, right? So there's there's millions of different types of computers, right? We have like normal laptops, telephones, iPhones, Android devices. All those are computers. All of them have chips. They have microprocessors in them, and so they can compute orders basically. And so I got into these like kind of like home electronic stuff. The one over here is actually super fun to work with. This is a Arduino boards. They're like little computers, and you can program them also, right? So I can basically, with the same code that I write websites, that I write other database information systems and stuff like that, I can program this little chipset, and it can do different things, right? So this one in particular has 12 what they're called input outputs. So 12 like little connectors, and I can connect sensors to it, like temperature sensors, light sensors, every kind of sensor that you can imagine, basically. And I can write things to automate, like for example, my home, right? I can come home and I can write a program that actually turns my lights on and off, for example, right? This board right here is around $10 more or less, so not that expensive. Really fun to play with, honestly. And I come down to this, which is one of my favorite microcontrollers. This is a chipset. I should have put the title up here, but this is a very small chipset. It's called ESP8266. I know I'm going a little bit way and beyond of like definitions and stuff like that, but in a nutshell, this little chip is like the size of my thumb, and it's Wi-Fi enabled. So I can connect anything in my house to Wi-Fi with this little chip. So I'm kind of like a barbecue fanatic, right? I really like doing some barbecue, and since I moved to Texas, I was like, man, I need to learn how to cook some really good barbecue, to have some barbecue with my friends. So I bought a big green egg, and I connected the big green egg basically to this little microcontroller with Wi-Fi. Why did I do that? So if you're basically barbecuing a brisket, it takes, depending on the size of the brisket, it takes from 10 to 16 hours, right? I do not want to be watching a grill for 10 to 16 hours. Honestly, I have funner things to do. So basically, I wrote a little program that, with some sensors, like a temperature sensor, right, measures the temperature of my grill, measures the temperature of my meat, right, and has a little fan. So this down here is a little fan, and if the temperature falls, basically the little computer, this little chip, turns on the fan, and the fan pushes air inside of the barbecue grill, and the coals with the oxygen, with air, they get red, they get hotter, and brings the temperature up. So basically, I built a barbecue babysitter with this chip. I don't know, cool, fun stuff. And I do work very hard on even on my side projects. But honestly, it's just because I really love it. I want to see how far I can take things. And I'm always very professional in all my engagements with clients and everything. But honestly, I'm a strong believer of work hard and play hard. Definitely. This is part of something like that I like doing. Like every so often, I'll go drive some crazy fun cars. This one right here is a McLaren 650S. 666 horsepower. It's a crazy car. It is so fun to drive. And this one down here is a 1952 Porsche 356 Speedster. It's just a very nice, subtle, classic car. So yes, let's work hard. Yes, let's enjoy our families. But also, let's have fun and enjoy life. Kind of that's my message with that. Okay, value. So I talked a lot about software development. I talked a lot about some of the projects that I've done in the past. But what have I delivered as value, right? What value have I created for my community and all that? I was really lucky to work with a team here in Austin, actually, here in Austin, Texas, that created a data standard to communicate data in the education space. Not a lot of people know about this, but it's called EdFi. It's the EdFi standard. And the problem that we were trying to solve was, when I get to a school, I have so many different systems that don't talk to each other, right? I have my student information system. I have my HR system. I have my nutrition system, right, like for my cafeteria system. I have my library system. I have my transportation system for the buses, right? All these systems are independent and they don't talk to each other. And you wouldn't believe how interesting they name things. Every system names things different. To give you an example, a name, something as simple as a name, right? I call names first name and last name. One system will call it F name and L name. Another system will call it FN name and LST name. Another system will just call it FN and LN, right? So there's no standard of how to name things. So we created this standard so that everybody could speak basically the same language in educational data. Interesting things that we've discovered with this. You know how teachers are always worried about us scoring really good in our assessments and the end of year courses, course exams, and especially the STAR exam and all that stuff, right? Well, we've discovered that there's correlations, there's data that relates to each other that is really interesting, and we could not do it without having all the data in one place. Let me give you just a quick example. And this is hypothetical. This is not a super real example, right? We noticed that from students that were on the free and reduced lunch plan, 50% of them were not passing the exam. And those 50% of those students actually were not taking breakfast or were not having the free and reduced lunch either, right? So we found that problem. We addressed in many districts, right? And we could only find that correlation in data if we actually have the data all in one place. Okay, other fun stuff in education. Real-time data reports for TEA, districts and schools, the student GPS dashboards. As I mentioned, I was the first developer there. I talked a little bit about legal tracking, easy tracking of deadlines, for example, in contracts. It was a collaborative software where all the lawyers could actually send messages to each other about cases and stuff like that. Classic car industry. That's super fun. I mean, honestly, it's super fun. And I don't know why there's not a lot of technology around it. So I feel like I modernized the way cars are sold now in the classic car industry. I compare basically selling classic cars as real-time stock trading, more or less. And hobbies, barbecue. Amazing, perfectly cooked barbecue. As you saw with my fun little barbecue controller project. Oh, this one is interesting. How much can you make as a software engineer, as a software consultant, as a developer? So this is up to date. This is some of the stuff that I updated actually today. A junior developer, I always say that for every level there's 3 levels, right? So junior developer level 1, level 2, and level 3. What differentiates every level is basically the years of experience. And I hated this when I started, right? It's like, oh, you don't have experience. We can't hire you. And I'm like, yes, I do have experience. I wrote all these awesome projects in high school and in college. Like, I do have experience. Just give me the opportunity, right? Experience really is going back to failing. Experience is that. It's failing multiple times and knowing, oh, I won't do this again because if I go down this path, I know that my software will not be good, right? So junior developer level 1, 2, 3 more or less goes from 0 years of experience, so right out of college, to 2 years of experience. My numbers here are in thousands of dollars annually, so you can start making around $30,000 to $60,000 dollars a year, which is pretty good. It's crazy, actually. In Mexico, it's way lower than this. A mid-level developer, which is more or less between 2 and 4 years of experience, can make between $60,000 to $80,000 a year. A senior developer is somebody who has like 4 to 6 years of experience, and they can make around $80,000 to $120,000 a year. A software architect has more or less 8 to 12 years of experience, and they make a lot of money, around $120,000 to $150,000. I have friends that are architects and make more than that, honestly. And now, even though this scale is going up, right? Once you reach an architect position, you're like, okay, cool, what's next for me, right? Next, you can go different ways, right? I chose actually to go the manager kind of position, right? Managing people. Even though I still love software architecture, honestly, I will never get away from software architecture. But I went the manager way. And see here, even though it says 2+ years of experience, that means you can manage people without being a software architect or without being even a coder. But it's really good if you have some experience coding and you like dealing with people. You can go the management route, and you can make depending on a lot of things, but between $60,000 and $130,000 a year, more or less. Then you get to be a director, right? Director basically manages multiple managers or multiple teams. So a director, to be a director, you kind of have to be, I would say, probably 8 to 10 years of experience managing and doing technical artifacts, coding, and stuff like that. They will make around $150K plus. And then the famous C-level CTOs, right? What they call a C-level executive. Definitely more than 10 years of experience. Sometimes really more than 10, maybe closer to 15 years of experience. And the salary is around 150 plus, so 150,000 plus equity. And we'll talk about equity in a second. Fun stuff is that at all these levels, you can find lots of jobs in your favorite companies, right? I have a cousin who actually works at Nike, and he loves it. I have a aunt that actually works at Disney, and Disney has a ton of internships, like a ton for coding, for technical support, even if you just want to go to the park and help in the park, they have a lot of internships. It's really, really cool. Who doesn't like Netflix? I love Netflix. You guys can't see me, but I'm raising my hand right now. I love Netflix. So you can actually work at Netflix and figure out new algorithms to compress the video and stream the video and all that fun stuff. So basically, you can work at your favorite company. And nowadays, everyone really and truly needs a developer. Equity. So what is equity? Equity means you get a piece of the pie. And I'm kind of like relating a company as if it was the pie, right? So if I am a C-level executive, usually they'll offer you a salary, a base salary, and then they'll tell you, hey, you'll have an equity of, for example, here, 5%. That means that you own 5% of that company. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. It really depends on where that company is at that point in time. So just as an example, right? If I was in a company where I had some equity and we sold the company for $1 million, you get 5% of the payout, right? So you would get around $50,000 when the deal is closed, right? Additionally, you'll get like 5% of an annual revenue, right? So at the end of the year, if the company made $100,000, you get a 5% of whatever the company made. Revenue is basically the earnings that the company did. Oh, and this is really interesting, right? So that's the path of being an employee and growing all the way up to being an executive at a company. But what if I'm an owner, right? Definitely not for the faint of heart, but very thrilling. I love it. I actually have a few small companies, and it's super interesting. It really is. You deal with other things, right? You deal with raising capital, like raising money to fund your company, bootstrapping it, or saying, you know what, I'm going to go work 9 to 5, and after 5, I'm going to work 2-3 hours a day on my company, on the thing that I believe in. But there's also big responsibilities and commitments, right? When you hire people, you have to pay those people. You will have commitments also with your clients, and you have to obviously commit to the commitments and finish the commitments, right? Like times, deliveries, stuff like that. And providing job opportunities to people and families. And I take that super, super serious when I hire somebody. We always make sure that we have enough funding to be able to hire somebody, right? Why? Because you're providing a job, you're providing job security, you're providing work for somebody who probably has a family. And definitely you have to commit to the payments and all that. You have to be really professional on those things. More risk, maybe more reward. Yes, if your company does take off, we were talking about 5%, right? But I usually have business partners in my company. So let's say that there's 3 of us that have a company together. That means the equity that I would have in the company, if we agree on it that way, would be 33%, right? So 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So if we sell the company for $1 million, then instead of just getting 50,000, then we're getting 333,000, right? So you can definitely see the benefits there. It is awesome to be a owner. There's a lot of challenges, but I definitely will push everybody who I know to try it at least once. You learn a lot, and you learn to value also your day job and other things. So definitely. Oh yeah, the future. So I'm going to pause for a second. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Let me open the. I can't open the chat.
The questions at the end.
Well, I guess I'll continue, and at the end we'll take the questions at the end. Perfect. Okay. So the future, where is software development going? I agree with the videos that Heidi showed us. Software development is just going to increase. There was a moment where a lot of the software development was being sent to be outsourced to India, to Latin America, to all these other places. I've seen this tendency of bringing back a lot of those jobs, honestly. So are we threatened by outsourcing and cheaper rates? My opinion is no, and I'll tell you guys why in a second. Job security. Like every other industry, if you are good and passionate about what you do, then you will always have a job. And whatever you do, if you're good and you're passionate about what you're doing, honestly, you'll always have a job. And I love these, as I said at the beginning, I love these little Mexican sayings, right? So, el que es perico donde sea es verde, which translates into he or she who is a parakeet will be green wherever he or she flies to, right? I don't know, some Mexican reflections right there that I really like. And more about the future. What other exciting things can I do? Honestly, the sky is the limit. Once you know how to teach computers to do the things that you want them to, you can let your imagination flow, right? Like kind of like what I did with the barbecue controller. You basically can tell the machines to do whatever you want them to do. So it's pretty cool. Examples here, the barbecue controller, as I mentioned. Drones, there's a lot of coding going on into drones. There's a lot of open source projects for drones. Super interesting things like it is easier to fly a drone if the drone can actually hold its altitude, right? Because then you don't have to do the different planes like X, Y, and Z and Z, right? So it's easier to just fly in basically in a two-dimensional plane instead of a three-dimensional plane. So there's a lot of crazy smart people out there writing algorithms to make drones fly easier, right? Self-driving cars. I love self-driving cars. They're starting to be out there, and so I talked a little bit about like Arduino, and I talked a little bit about sensors, right? So self-driving cars have a ton of sensors. They have cameras to look at their environment, right? They have speed sensors, they have temperature sensors, they have humidity sensors, right? Because if the ground is wet, the algorithm to slow the car down is different, right? Because it can skip. So really interesting things with self-driving cars. E-commerce, Amazon. Amazon, eBay, all the big e-commerce websites actually have a very small e-commerce website. But you can write basically a website that does e-commerce for you. Or you can work at one of these super cool companies and help them expand what they're doing. And I agree with the video, automation of common jobs. Yes, but beware. With automation comes great responsibility. What do I mean by this? We have a saying in computer science, right? It takes one human and one pen to mess up one invoice, right? So if you have a company that invoices and sells products or buys products, one human being can make one mistake, right? To say, kind of just following with the example. But we say it takes one human being and a computer to mess up 100,000 invoices. So when you automate things, you really have to be careful of what are you automating, because there can be great responsibility and consequences if you mess up. And there's strategies to prevent some of that stuff, but I'm not going to talk about that today. So the future, what about self-driving cars? This is crazy because I wrote this without seeing the video, but no more taxi drivers. What? Maybe no more car buying, right? One of the parts of technology, to be successful in technology, there's this word that I like, which is be disruptive, right? Change things that we've always done the same. Change them. Come in with a crazy idea and say, you know what? I don't like how we're doing this, right? I don't know. I don't like how we cook food in a microwave. I don't know, something like that. Always try to see what things you can improve of our common tasks, so the things that we do every day. Yeah, so here's the self-driving car again, and kind of like, where are the sensors and cameras and all that fun stuff. Strange enough, Tesla doesn't, even though they have a ton of sensors, they don't look as ugly as this, right? Everybody agrees Tesla has pretty cool design. Skills. I get this question a lot. What is the number one skill I have to be a successful software developer? And I always answer the same thing: passion. You have to want to do these things. You want to have that drive, that passion of saying, yes, I'm going to invent the next Facebook. Yes, I'm going to invent the next Amazon. I'm going to be the #1 store selling food online or stuff like that, right? You have to have that drive, that passion. And additionally, I just seriously mentioned these as additionally things. A computer science degree, totally. Yes and no, and I'll talk about that in a second. Or let's take the chance right now and talk about it. Some of my smartest friends have computer science degrees. But I've also had people that are self-taught, that they finished their high school, and they're self-taught, and they know a lot about computer science, and they know a lot about how to design software. I've seen kids that are 13, 14 years old that can code really, really good. Having said that, in my next slide, I'll talk about why having a computer science degree is important. For web development, HTML, which is the language to write part of the website. CSS, which is kind of to make the website look nice. JavaScript is kind of to make the website more interactive. On the backend side, these are just some technologies that right now are some of the big ones for web development. Node.js, which is a JavaScript server, basically. C#, which is Microsoft technology. Java, which is, or now it's open source, and Oracle's kind of like technology. On the database side, Microsoft SQL Server is my favorite, but I've worked with Oracle and MongoDB, which is just technologies, other databases out there. For mobile development is really big right now, like super, super big. Everybody has a phone. Everybody's buying stuff through their phone. Everybody's playing games on their phone, right? So some of the technologies that I like the most are hybrid application development with Cordova and Ionic. So basically, you can write a website that runs on your mobile phone with the same languages that you use on a website. It's pretty cool, and it works on all the phones basically. And then the normal ones that we have today: Objective-C, Swift, and Java to do iPhone apps and Android apps. Education. What degrees do I have to have? Seriously, again, passion. Lots of passion. It always helps to have a college degree. It kind of works like life insurance, right? Like or even health insurance. You never know if you're going to need it, but when you do, it makes the difference. And I'm going to tell everybody why I think it's super important. So let's say that Disneyland, right, has a job offering for a software developer. They first don't meet you in person, right? First they receive a ton of paper of your basically your profile, your resume being sent to them. And if they're deciding between two candidates, one who doesn't have a college degree and one that actually has a college degree, most of the times the person with the college degree is actually going to be called in for the interview. Most of the times. So again, it's kind of like insurance, right? College degrees also kind of show commitment. You can start something, you can finish it. Technical degrees are awesome. Certifications are also important. Certifications like in network certifications or website development certifications. There's a ton of certifications, honestly, online. And I know I talk a lot, so I think I'm within time. So does anybody have any questions?
I've opened up the question box, and they'll be able to type those in.
I think.
So we'll give it a minute and allow them to ask their questions.
Awesome, I see it. I see it there. And you can ask me any crazy question. Sometimes I won't answer them, but you can ask.
And let me just remind you that he won't have any answers about Gear Up and our program. Make sure your questions are dealing with technology and software and that information.
What is the hardest thing about what you do? Oh, that's a great question. That really is a great question. Oh, look, questions are coming in. Okay, what is the hardest thing? For me, the hardest thing sometimes is not being able to deliver on the times that I told my client that I would deliver, and having to go in and have that hard conversation with my client and tell him like, hey, I know that I told you that in 3 weeks I would have this, but there was a lot of complications around what we were doing, and we're not going to meet our deadline. Those are conversations that I hate having. My clients are awesome, but those are, I would say that's the hardest thing, honestly. Oh yeah, Sergio asks, what degrees do I have? I don't think you stated it. No, I went to the Monterey Tech in Mexico City, and I have a bachelor in computer science. It's actually called software engineering. Computer software engineering is my software degree, and it is a Bachelor of Science. Desmond, when you first start programming, was it hard? Yeah, it was pretty hard. I didn't, as I said, I copied Pac-Man basically. I didn't understand anything that I was doing, like seriously, nothing. But human beings, I mean, you guys will probably remember, how did you learn to do multiplications, right? You repeat. At first you don't even know what they are, and then you repeat, and you repeat enough that your brain starts like connecting. It's like, oh, okay. Anything multiplied by 1 is the number, right? Anything multiplied by 0 is 0, and 2 is like 2 times whatever. So as you repeat things, as I copied and pasted a lot of code and kind of like tested, a lot of trial and error, right? You start getting it. And it's fun. Once you get it, it's like, oh, I get it. So yeah, it was definitely hard, but once you get it, moving from one language to another is pretty easy. So just keep on it, continue copying and pasting, continue just typing things. Advice to follow your steps at a young age. Get a computer, definitely be outside, do sports, run, do all that stuff. But get a computer, and there's a ton of YouTube videos out there that'll teach you how to code. Choose a thing that you want to do. For example, I want to do a phone app, or I want to do an HTML website, or something like that. Choose one thing, keep with it until you understand it, and until you can deliver something that makes sense, right? So follow your goals and see them through. That was Princess. Felicia, can you name some schools that specialize in software development? Here in the U.S., I can't, honestly. But all the major universities, like here in Texas, we have UT, the University of Texas, the University of North Texas, UNT. Actually, one of my nephews graduated from there, and he came out pretty good, honestly speaking. He works in the same company where I'm at. There's a lot of coding schools. There's online coding schools too. One of my favorite ones is Pluralsight. I'll put it in the comments in a few seconds. Pluralsight just has tons of videos. Really professional videos of how to get started. And
we have
really
a summer program from the Best Buy Geek Squad. They come
Taylor,
to so every year.
Are there any summer programs that you recommend that will teach us how to start
if you
programming?
were interested in Taylor, pay attention
Unfortunately
towards
not. Let me research
May,
some, and I'll
we'll
send
be
some
announcing that
back
date
to
of when
Andre and
the Geek Squad will
Heidi,
be returning.
and
And they do a lot
I'll
of
get back to
programming
you
in
on
the summer. And then
Yeah.
we also have the text prep program that works through Cedar Valley and UNT Dallas, and they provide some coding, introduction to coding in those camps as well. So those are two that we offer with Gear Up, and we'll be able to provide you those as we get closer to summer.
There you go. Fantastic. Nigel, what would you recommend me to start coding now, being young? I'm a little bit biased because I really think that web is going to take over. I really think that eventually mobile apps for iPhone and for Android and Windows Phone and all that, iPads, are going to be web-based applications. We're seeing it now with hybrid apps. So my recommendation, now that you're young, definitely HTML, right? So that you can have a user interface. HTML is the language to create like websites. And then next, being young, I would say JavaScript and Node.js. So I'll put it over here, like Node.js. If you Google Node.js, they're right there. Node.js and HTML. Nigel, definitely JavaScript is also one of those languages that is taking over. I kind of joke with my friends, like JavaScript is taking over the world. I can actually code the other circuits, the other things that I showed you, the other chips like the Arduino or the ESP8266. I can actually code those in JavaScript too. JavaScript also is a fairly easy language to learn, so I would go for that. Definitely go for that. So Node.js means Node JavaScript. That one is super easy to install also on a machine, and you can get up and running really quick. Jaden, do you think your job will be done by computers soon? My friends and I joke about this too, right? We heard somewhere somebody in one of our geek outs said in 2040, right, in the year 2040, there's going to be two types of people. There's going to be people who tell computers and machines what to do, and there's going to be people that actually the computers tell them what to do. We joke about this. I really don't think that it's going to get to that. But so do I think my job will be done by computers soon? As a coder, I've seen a lot of attempts of software that seems to reduce the complexity of coding stuff, and it never ends well. So I feel pretty secure that I will continue having my job for a long, long time, honestly. So no, I don't think that soon computers will replace developers. Is programming super complex, and how do you code? I don't think it's complex, but every time that I say it's not complex, I remember all the little components that are involved in getting something like a mobile or a web application running. And some people say, yes, it's a little bit complex. Really and truly, it's like speaking English, right? Once you know the words, once you know the vocabulary, once you know the spelling, I think it's pretty easy. But some people say it is complex. I think that falls kind of like into the question: Are you good at history and geography, or are you good at math? Right? I think there's a little bit of space for everybody in the world. So some people will think it's complicated. I don't. I enjoy it a lot. I really enjoy coding. So no. Nancy, what college did you go to or believe majors more in computer coding? I went to the Monterey Tech in Mexico City. But my dream, honestly, like I always try to set my goals like super high. I would have loved to go to MIT. I never got accepted though. But I have a friend, one of my really good friends right now. He graduated from MIT. He's super smart. I really like hanging with him, discussing cool things. But really and truly, any college nowadays here, well, not any college. I'm probably exaggerating. There's really good colleges out there that teach coding. UT, University of Texas at Austin is really good. I mentioned also Texas A&M. UNT are the ones that I know of. Honestly, there's a lot of colleges out there. I don't know all of them. Melesio Diaz, if you have no experience, what is the best way to start having experience? That is a great question. The best way of having experience is being the person who, when you're in college or when you're in high school and you're doing team exercises together, really and truly, you have to be the person who does the stuff. You don't want to be the guy who sits back and orders the pizza and brings the soda drinks stuff. No, you want to be the guy who executes. And that goes as well in coding, right? You have to be the person who sits down and actually writes the code. Those projects that you do in high school, those projects that you do in college, that is experience. That definitely is experience. And in summer, you can actually go and do internships at companies that code. So that's what I recommend. How to get experience, expose yourself towards companies that have internships, and be that person who actually executes and does the code. Also, I know there's a lot of high schools nowadays that teach computer projects, computer science, coding. So definitely get into those courses in high school. Definitely. Was software development your first career choice? I love that question. Actually, no. My first career option was chemistry. My second was electronic engineering, and then I really fell in love with computers and coding. So that's when I switched. But yeah, interesting enough, chemistry. was actually my first choice. But I would never choose different. My passion is definitely with software development. I love it. I really do. Desmond, another question. When you started programming, did your best friend help you get better at it? It's really funny that you asked that too. My neighbor in Mexico was also a geeky guy like me, and geeky nerdy guy, and yes, we actually would run long nights with the machines. His laptop, my laptop, or even, I guess back then there was not even laptops. Are basically our machines, and we coded stuff together. Yes, he did help me. He did. Sometimes he would solve problems that I couldn't solve, and I would ask him, like, how did you do that, man? And he would show me what code he wrote. So yes, definitely. Actually, coding is funner if you do it in teams. Seriously, and you can get so much more accomplished when you do teams. Tammy, what technology careers do you recommend in addition to software development? Technology careers. Okay, let's say if I could not do software development, what other career would I choose? I think electronics. I love like the Internet of Things. I love that I can have like my phone connected to my lights in my house and my air conditioner and my garage door, and to me that's just amazing, right? How you can do little electronic stuff that helps you manage and automate stuff. So technology, yeah, I would say software engineering, electric engineering. I mean, engineering, technology, and stuff like that. Architecture, building buildings, houses, all that fun stuff are some of the careers that I would think. The other day, a friend of mine asked me, if there was no electricity, what would you do? I could definitely not be a coder or an electrician or anything like that, right? Woodworking. Honestly, I love working with wood. So I would probably be a carpenter. That would be kind of like my second, but that's not technology related. Emmanuel, what are the most important ways you have experienced through technology in your life? What are the most important ways you have experienced through technology in your life? Most important ways. So let me see if I understand the question. What do you have experienced through technology in your life? I think technology helps makes chores in general just easier, right? I am not one of those guys who owns one of the Roombas, those robots that sweep your floor and vacuum and stuff like that. But I mean, wouldn't that be super cool? I would just have a little robot that does my housekeeping for me. Automate those tedious jobs. I think that would be some of the most important things that I think technology could help me in my life. How many years have you been doing this? That is a interesting question. How many years have I been coding? So I started coding when I was 8 years old. But then I dropped it for a few years. Like, I was just not interested more in playing soccer outside, running, doing that kind of stuff. Professionally, I would say I've been working professionally in software for around 15 years, more or less. Anyone had problems with your work? Definitely. Oh, at the beginning, there's things in software development called bugs. Bugs are pieces of code that were not written correctly. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you open Hotmail or Gmail and you want to send an email, and you click the send button and it doesn't send the email. Yes, I had many of those and many failures. But that's what experience is all about, right? Understanding the problems that you have, seeing how you can fix them, and try to not fall in those problems again. But Dylan, a ton of problems with my code, for sure. Tons of problems with my code. Even with HTML, with like a simple website, right? If I want to place a button in a certain place, and in one browser it looks one way, and another browser it looks like a different way, and people have problems with that all the time. It's definitely not an exact science, but you get better at it, and you get used to it too. Is it possible that if technology progresses, we can change the environment for the better, such as global warming? Definitely, Jaden. Yes. Look at what Tesla's doing right now, right? Without having cars burn gasoline, gas, and other stuff like that. By using solar energy, we won't have so many carbon footprint, right, on our planet. And I think so. Yes. Have you tried coding with your daughter? Great question. I have many times. She actually is 8 already. I tried when she was 6, too young. Honestly, she was too young. And I have tried. I've done some very simple things with her, like we did a stoplight, right? Like, hey, how do the stoplights work on the street, right? And so I showed her how to program a thing that basically loops every so many minutes and turns the green light on, then goes to yellow, then goes to red. It's been fun. Coding with her. Sometimes she has other interests, and I respect that. But yeah, definitely, I sit down with her and tried to code many times, and some things have been good, some things have not. Niles, ever thought about another career doing high school? Yes, totally. I talked about chemistry. I talked about electronic engineering. Those are 2 careers that really called my attention. Again, I come from a family of ranchers, and animal science, personally, to me, it never called to my attention. And maybe it's because I was exposed to a lot of animals and cleaning the animals and going and picking up after the animals and all that. And I think I had my fair share of dealing with animals. I love animals. I have a dog. I love her to death. She was actually bitten by not a rattlesnake, a coral snake today. But she's fine. She's doing great. I love animals, but I just don't. I would not see myself doing a career like animal science. Agriculture, yes. I actually have a few apple trees. I have a few pear trees here in Austin in my house, and I just love nature. I love to walk outside, and I love how nature provides. You plant a tree, and you have 30, 40, 50, 60 apples. So I like that a lot. Questions from parents? Maybe some parents have some questions. Jordan Carter, is it fun? Is what fun? Is coding fun? To me, it is. It's super exciting, man. I can write software that creates, maybe it doesn't sound super fun to you, but that creates, for example, an invoice, right? Or I can write a piece of software that creates a game, right? I play games. I play like Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, some of those on my phone. So is it fun to code those things? To me, it is.
Okay, so we're going to have to wrap this up.
I love solving problems.
I appreciate all the questions that have come through.
When I sit down and I start coding
some
things,
really good ones, if you would
it
agree,
is
Douglas.
super fun.
But we got to get them ready for school tomorrow.
I can't stop.
And I'm sure
I'm like, I need to solve this problem. I need to solve it, and
but before
I
they
don't stop
leave,
until I solve it. So to me,
one of the questions that
it's
students
really fun,
were
really
asking was about colleges and what are some things that they can do. And we actually have, this is a 3-part series. So tonight was, someone that is working in the industry now giving some information to the students and sharing their experience. Next month, students, we're going to be having the Art Institute of Dallas come on and present from their perspective as a higher education program. And, the creative side of it and the gaming and the programming on the gaming side she'll have some time to answer questions, ask them questions as far as what should you do in the summer, are there classes that you could take in the summer, and they'll be able to give you more of that information. So I will be emailing all the students that have been online with us tonight. I'm going to send you a confirmation email that you were in attendance, and then you'll do next month's and the one in January, and then that's how you'll be able to go on this field trip with us towards the end of May. So this is first check towards that field trip, and look for that confirmation email in the next couple of days. And also, you want to make sure to keep up with what we've got going on. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're out there. We're on YouTube. So students, start following us and stay up to date on events that we have coming in the future. I know the site coordinators get that question all the time. What do you got going? What are you doing next? You can follow us on social media and keep up with events that we have happening. So this is a good place. Douglas, I want to say thank you for joining us. We really appreciated all that you offered tonight and shared. It was very, very good and very informational. Thank you. So students, we're done for this evening. Parents, thanks for joining us, and we will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.